Cash One Pawn has the most extensive inventory of any pawn shop in western Montana. Whether you're in the market for firearms, power tools, bows, video game consoles, or sunglasses, Cash One Pawn is the best deals around. And now Cash One Pawn gives you the ability to shop online from anywhere. Make CashOnePawn.com part of your shopping habits. Also make sure to download the Cash One Pawn app. Cash One Pawn, Missoula's premier pawn shop, located on Roller Coaster Road on the way to the Y. Official start of football season, so just being in this room, how does it make you feel just knowing that it's kind of, especially for you guys, right around the corner?
Yeah, this time of year is always exciting. And this event, aptly named a kickoff, is just what it is. And we usually have another week before we get going, but we have our guys coming back on Thursday and start practice on Friday, so it's true to form, especially this year. But exciting time. I know that transition from spring to summer to fall is always, there's some curiosity. You leave spring with a certain idea of who guys are, who you are as a team. You add mostly the hard work in the summer, but a couple more guys to the mix, and you look forward to what that's all going to play out, how it's going to play out in the next month.
I thought it was interesting talking to Brody and Marcus just about the sort of the adverse situations that Sean Heron and the wait staffs kind of tried to put them in this summer. And I know that was one thing that Brody said, hey, last year maybe there was a couple of those that didn't go your guys' way. So how much progress do you think you made in that area, and what have you thought is the summer you guys have had?
Yeah, I think it's hard to replicate those moments that pop up in a season, but we lost 4 games, and each one of those games, there was points in time that ultimately we didn't make the plays or whatever. So working through that, trusting one another, trusting that we are going to come through in those moments. I think you try to create situations that replicate that. So when it gets hard on a Saturday, you can look at one another and find a way. So credit to Sean for being creative in every which way, and I think our guys, continuing to trust what he's doing, and it's our sense that we're making progress in that regard, and we'll find out on maybe any given Saturday moving forward how that's going to play out.
You guys look great physically. I mean, they were posting pictures of them, with flexing and all. I mean, so what do you think of just the physical progress you guys have made this offseason coming into fall camp?
I think it's meant, continue to move in that direction. That's a lot of guys that are 5th and 6th, and then we have a Cole Sane who's a 7th-year guy that can continue to make progress. But then we have a lot of 2nd and 3rd-year guys.
Right.
I think that's a really, right now it's an unheralded group that's going to have to play a role this fall, but then ultimately moving forward is going to have to keep things moving, and I really like the progress of that group in particular when it comes to the physical side. So, Coach Heron continues to do phenomenal things with them. We have great support on the nutrition side that's allowed us to simply feed our guys the way we need to. So, our guys are really committed to, I think, continuing to become their very best.
What do you think of the sort of the Cowboy, not only personas, but also the mentality that these guys are embracing? You guys are wearing your Cowboy hats on the road trips. You used to be a Wyoming Cowboy. I mean, you got a real Cowboy in Brody Griggs. You got a lead in your team.
Well, I think, when you have a real Cowboy in Brody, and he brings a whole crew out to the Grebe Ranch
right.
in Melstone, and they do real cowboy work, I think it becomes a little bit more real.
Less glamorized, right, when you actually...
Absolutely, yeah. We had a whole bunch of guys spend a weekend out there helping them brand. And no, I mean, that's a fabric of the state of Montana. And, we have a bunch of ranch kids beyond the 2 Grebe brothers on our team, and, that is the epitome of our state. It's the epitome of hard work. So if we can grab a piece of that in Brody's work ethic, Bryce's work ethic, Coulter Petrie, if that can rub off on a few of our guys, that's really important. It's way more than just wearing a cowboy hat. I think it's a state of mind. It's how you go about your business, and Brody's example in particular exemplifies what that can mean to a team.
Well, and you've seen this throughout your career. I mean, North Dakota State's always had a bunch of guys from rural backgrounds, maybe not Cowboys, but, from farms and ranches and yada. Wyoming, same thing. You see, the preseason offensive MVP, Lan Larson, he's also a former rodeo guy. Riley Wilson of Montana, he's also a former, Cowboy rodeo guy. So why do you think the kids from, the rural ag backgrounds translate so well to college football?
Well, you don't have to convince them how to work hard. They've seen it their whole lives. Getting up early, doing chores, whatever, has just been part of their life. So getting up and at 5 a.m. to work out at 6 a.m. all summer long isn't real complicated. And the more examples of that, that don't fight that, I guess, the better off your team's going to be. Recruiting guys that know what hard work looks like, have no problem with it, aren't too concerned about holding someone to a standard either. I think that's all part of what comes from that background, and the more guys you can have that have been brought up that way, the better.
Brent Vigen here on Nuanez Now ESPN Radio. We were talking to Brody about Melstone might be the town that a All-American football player is from. That is the smallest town maybe in the country and all of college football. So, I mean, what a fold, right? I think the listed population is 190, but he was saying, no way. Only 40 people actually live in Melstone, right? Everybody else just lives on a ranch near Melstone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And credit to that community for raising those boys. Credit to
Yeah, they got 2 D1 guys from there, not even just one.
Right. And, a lot of credit. And their dad Jason is the basketball coach,
yep.
And they've had a big time standard there on the basketball side, but that certainly just athletically has brought the best out of not only those two, Brody and Bryce, but then there's many examples of that small town, and so many times you're a product of your environment, big, small, whatever, and they're real fortunate to grow up in that environment, to have the successes they did in high school, and then we're very fortunate to reap the benefits at the college level, because it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't, and sometimes overcoming that barrier of where you come from is the hardest thing, but those guys like Bryce and now Mason Deffman coming from the 6-man
right.
ranks, sometimes it's just as simple as telling you can do this.
Right.
And they know what hard work looks like, so they're gonna jump on board and become something, over the course of time they're in our program that's completely different. You look at Trayton Pickering coming from Sunburst, what Trayton became and where he came from are, 2 different things, but it can happen. So the more examples we have like that, and we'll continue to find those guys, the better our program's going to be.
How big was the town you grew up in?
I think they would claim 330 or something like that.
So tiny, right?
Yeah, I graduated. I had 22 in my class, so maybe a relative metropolis compared to Melstone, but no,
Does that give you the ability to sort of see this too, though, because you come from a similar background?
I think so, and then my whole time at North Dakota State, I recruited rural North Dakota, rural Minnesota.
Right.
A lot of those, it was 9-man players from North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, became, All-Americans and all that.
Right.
So, knowing maybe what it kind of needs to look like at that level to project, I think is something that's been a long part of my career. Not letting the way the field looks or the competition on the other side dictate what you think of a young man. It's always hard. You're taking a top line of competition in Texas, and you're looking at a kid that's playing 6-man ball. These 2 linebackers, Bryce Griggs and Mason Deffman, in the recruiting process. You're comparing them to someone that's playing at the highest of the high.
Right.
You got to see past all the other guys out in the field and see what you see in that particular young man, and it's not simple. I've had to remind our coaches from time to time, don't get caught up in the surroundings. Just look at what that kid can do and what you think he can ultimately become.
Brent Vigen, ESPN Radio, Nuanez Now. From a football perspective, what do you think makes Brody Griggs the preseason Big Sky MVP and one of the best defensive players in this conference?
Well, I think media and coaches alike, you've definitely seen a progression. He was a third down specialist in 21 and was really effective. Took on a greater role in 22, and ultimately when he went down towards the tail end of the year, that did really hurt us. And I think you quantify that value a little bit. And then he had a phenomenal year last year, and so that ascension, I think, is valued beyond just the stats. I think you see a guy that continues to get better and better, and I think there's some real value in that. And ultimately, I know Brody's, he's driven, and that piece at our level is so important. Guys being able to maximize their ability, and he's got a lot of God-given ability. He does, but his work ethic, his commitment, his desire to become his very best is every bit the match of his athletic ability.
Our family on our mom's side has a deep Montana history, especially stemming from Butte and Helena. We are so proud. One of the things we are most proud of is to call ourselves Montanans. At Up Top Clothing, they have Montana-made and Montana-branded clothing for both men and women. Their Montana Till I Die collection is one of my favorite collections anywhere in the clothing world. And you can shop online and get the Montana Till I Die collection and all the other great gear that Up Top Clothing makes delivered right to your doorstep. Visit teamuptop.com, and if you use the promo code Skyline15, you're going to get a discount on all your online ordering. Teamuptop.com, Up Top Clothing, reminding you to take a step back and enjoy the moment.
Every team has sort of a different mindset, mentality, identity. I know you haven't started quite yet, but I mean, what do you hope is sort of the mindset and identity of this team? What's different about that than maybe the last couple years worth of Bobcat football teams?
Yeah, I think, as far as the schemes and the playmakers roll out, I think there's still some to be figured out there. I know we need to be a more balanced outfit on the offensive side. Ask Tommy to do more ordinary and less extraordinary. Defensively, I think we need to raise the bar on the defensive side, but ultimately, we need to be able to, in the most critical moments, find a way to get things done, and there's trust involved in that. And I think underlying everything, we spent a lot of this offseason just building upon that trust, being solution-focused in our mindset. And so there's been a lot of time spent, obviously, in the weight room and doing all kinds of things out in Bobcat Stadium, but we've spent a lot of time just working on the mental side, our approach, and you hope that in the most critical moments that pays dividends, and that remains to be seen, but I like the progress we've made to this point.
Tommy's progress, lots of progress this offseason. What have you seen out of him? And it's crazy now he's a senior. I mean, this is his last go all of a sudden. Yeah.
Well, I think, coming off of the way that the season finished, he needed about a month, I think, to recover. But by the time we came back, he was bound and determined, and continue to develop as a quarterback, as a passer, has been a key focus. That's some things in his control, but it's the continued development of our receivers, our tight ends, and he's really taken ownership of what that looks like. A quarterback taking ownership, throwing outside of the sessions where we throw, in the meeting room, doing everything he can. Tommy's put all that time in and then some. I think schematically, we need to continue to find ways to allow him to do the ordinary, to do things that appear to be easy, because he can throw the ball and he can execute at a high level, and that's ultimately what I know he's geared up to do. He's such a competitor. He's a perfectionist all at the same time. He's incredibly intelligent. So harnessing all of that to allow him just to go out there and play is the charge of our offensive staff and Tyler Walker. And I appreciate the relationship that Tyler's developed with Tommy as we've gone through this year, and really looking forward to Tommy having his best year, period.
Have you ever prepared a team for a Week 0 game? Have you coached Week 0 before?
Yeah, in 2018 at Wyoming, we played New Mexico State. So kind of knew what the shortened summer, the extended. It's not an extended fall camp; it's the same period of time, but it starts early. Classes start the week of the game versus the week before, and you are in football mode. Morning, noon, and night, much longer than we typically are. So take advantage of that. Keep the guys fresh at the same time. So, there's some nuance to that, but our guys still know that it's about the work we do on the practice field in the meeting room, and they're going to get their breaks here and there, but they're all committed to putting the work in and looking forward to getting that going.
It's a great opportunity, right, to be able to be one of the only college football games going and sort of get the excitement rolling towards the season. So what do you think of just sort of the lens your program will be under when you're playing in Albuquerque?
I think it's great to be on FS1, 2 o'clock. People are starving for football.
Totally.
And it will be one of those first games. So a lot more eyes on you. I think there's real value to Montana State, Bobcat football, all those things on that Saturday, and we want to be able to put our best foot forward, show that we belong on that stage, and go out there and do everything we can to win a football game.
Albuquerque's, that's an interesting environment. You got elevation, 2 o'clock in New Mexico, and on August 24th, it's probably going to be pretty hot. So how do you is there a way to prepare for like those? Obviously, you guys are practicing at elevation too, but it's higher even there. So, is there a way to prepare for sort of those exterior factors?
I think you put the work in fall camp. We'll go in the afternoon a few times,
Sure.
But we can't necessarily replicate the game day situation. But I think just continue to convince our guys that, hey, put the work in, be in the best condition we are possible. It might get hard, it might get hot, whatever, that particular day. But when that time comes, what are we doing to sort it out? Certainly depth. It becomes a big thing on those types of days when the elements can make it more complicated. And I hope by the time we get to August 24th, our depth defensively, special teams, offensive line-wise, receivers can all be in a place where, we're counting on many more than just 22 guys.
Brent Vigen here on ESPN Radio. Thanks for doing it, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Cats.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town